Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. I am here with Corey Henderson from ourvoiceusa.org. Corey, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So you were referred to me by Sam Ronan. I interviewed him last week, and he's one of the founders of Our Voice USA, and I was going through your guys' website, and you have, I don't know, 3 or 4 candidates that basically are trying to flip certain districts or get them more progressive. Why don't you explain to everybody out there a little bit what your organization is and how you guys are trying to change the political system right now?
So Our Voice Initiative is a 501c4 nonprofit. We are nonpartisan.
What's this for? Explain that, just because I think most people know a 501c3 is just a standard non-for-profit. What's the difference between a C4 and a C3?
So C3 is a charity where donations are tax deductible, and a C4 is a social welfare organization which donations are not tax deductible. So a little bit of difference there under the IRS tax code. And C3s are very heavily regulated, so they can't have political activities. Whereas a C4, there's a little more leeway there. Now, we're not going to, as an organization, specifically endorse any particular candidates or parties. What we're most interested in is building a system to bring the political process into the 21st century. There's a lot of fragmented pieces of technology out there for being politically engaged, and what we want to do is bring it all under one location so that you can, from your phone, see who your incumbents are, what districts you're in, and who's running against them. And also, we have a survey on the app that's you answer strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree on 25 questions. And when candidates sign up to be listed in our directory, they answer those same questions. What we'll have very soon is, it's like, Mia Love is my congresswoman. Oh, hey, look, this person is running against Mia Love in the Republican primary, and I agree with this person a certain percentage. And you can kind of make decisions just at a glance as who you should pay attention to. And because most people don't know who's running, and by the time they're engaged enough to go vote, it's long past their capacity to make an informed decision. And if we can do things like push alerts that says, oh, there's a primary in a week, do your research, here's the links to the candidates, read about them, just for everybody the same way across the country.
So I understand. So it's not necessarily you're trying to push like a progressive anti-corporate agenda so much as you're just trying to get people more involved and informed using updated technology.
Yeah, because where the power resides with the corporate agenda is fully relies on people not paying attention. And when people start to pay attention, stuff changes. And it's not up for me to decide, am I progressive or am I conservative or whatever. I'm most interested in facilitating democracy, because what we have right now is not a democracy. We have big money interests making decisions and doing things to the system that is designed to make people disengage and be disenfranchised. And that is what is wrong, and that's what I'm trying to solve. If we can put something, we have a millennial population that's of voting age, and if we can put, political engagement into their phone, then they're going to be involved.
Especially since such a high percentage of millennials call themselves independents, and independents look what the Democrats did to independents. They shut them out, and then they chastise independents when they don't get on board in the general. Like, that's my favorite, the thing that the Democrats do. We don't want you involved in the primary, but come general, we are entitled to your vote, and if you don't vote for us, then you're the reason why Trump's in the White House.
Right, and one thing I like to say, because people talk about voting for the lesser of two evils is voting for evil, and my response to them is, well, did you vote in the primary? Because the primary is where you do not vote for evil. And if you didn't vote in the primary, well, you just didn't get a choice, did you? And so many people do not even know what a primary is, that It's like, gee, is civics even taught in high school? I wasn't taught civics when I was in high school. I had to learn it myself after I got woke, you know? And I'm an IT guy. I'm a nerd. I thought about this from the perspective of I'm not interested in anybody else's opinion, and I know other people aren't interested in my opinion. And that's one of the big chasms of divide comes from people not talking to each other because they have enough differences in opinion that they hate each other, which I think is just silly. If I can build something that appeals to people because it's nonpartisan, they can become engaged. And when more people become engaged, we end up with better people running. And better is perspective. I live in Utah, so someone better running is conservative, but you have conservatives who don't want money in politics, and that's a better option than what we have right now. So when a Republican or a someone who considers themselves a Republican looks at the app, they're going to get the candidate challengers in a different order than someone who's a liberal, because they'll have answered the survey questions differently. But several of the questions really point out how a person thinks about us as humans, and there's a lot of voting actions done by incumbents that basically say people are dirt, and
what specifically?
Like this tax bill that passed, that this giant cut for corporations that aren't going to spend it on the communities that they reside in, and that don't expire, and then you have little tax cuts for Americans that do expire eventually. It's very dirty political.
It also goes against everything the conservatives say, that they're all about reduce the deficit, and then they add $1.5 trillion to the deficit. And they'll just sell, these politicians in both parties will just sell their soul to whatever.
Yeah, so, and I attend the conservative caucuses, and I talk to these people, and they hate the people in office, but they like them better than the Democrat. And I'm like, go vote in the primary, I know a person who's a conservative who I would love to be my congressperson, simply because they're far more human and they make more economic decisions that are for the best interests of people. And it's like you can't agree with people on everything, and if you live in a district where you're in the minority, you have to make some concessions, but show up and vote, be part of the process. And if you have a tool that can engage people, then you take the extremes, polar opposite, hardcore, Republican, hardcore Democrat, and you bring it in, and you get legislation actually passed when it's less polarized. And that's really what I want to do is. So
what are some of these questions like? So when somebody gets in your app and what are they asked?
All right, so I'll just pull it up myself.
Your app is pretty new. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I've been working on this since the end of May. The very first thing that I chose to do was a canvassing app so that people can knock on doors and ask these questions. To my disheartenment and disfranchisement, and I had to overcome this, people not being interested to talk about this stuff outside of the political season, and I'm like, but it still matters. Anyway, I wrote a canvassing app to do this, and it didn't really go anywhere. And then I don't know what happened, but earlier this month, I'm like, who represents me, right? So I had vacation from work, and I spent, basically 10 days to put in a feature that is now in the app where you press, who represents me, and it asks you for your location, either from the phone or you enter your address, and it says, you're in this Congressional District 4, you're in State Legislature District XYZ, here's who represents you. And that data is all available on the internet, and I just had to compile it. And now you can press on them and see their picture, and you can actually star rate them, and it shows a star rating breakdown by party. So constituents who are Republicans who give the current incumbent who's a Republican a low rating, somebody needs to be primaried. You kind of expect that, Democrats gave them 1 star. Well, that's not really the point. It's what do the Republican constituents think of this incumbent. So that is currently live in the app. It's in beta. And I hope to do a full release in a month or two. But back to what you were saying about the survey questions that we're going to tie in to the incumbents and the candidates who actually sign up and use it. So the first question is, incomes from investments should be taxed the same as all other income, and then strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. Second question, I support a universal basic income. Third question, the banking industry bailout was an exercise in corporate welfare. And I didn't write these questions myself, just wanted to mention that.
Who wrote them?
So let's see. Citizens should have access to the same level of health care as members of Congress.
Corey, real quick, who wrote the questions?
So Our Voice has a team of leaders that Sam is a part of. So Chris Guru and Corey Cheney and a few other people. Okay. So we as a group wrote the questions, and we went through a couple of iterations because some of them were hyper. You had to be in the know to understand it. And so we went through several iterations to I don't want to say dumb it down, but reword them into terms that everybody would have an easier time understanding. So yeah, citizens should have the same access to same level of healthcare as members of Congress. Corporations should decide the value of labor without minimum wage restrictions. Citizens should trust party leaders, and we should eliminate the primaries. The electoral college is necessary to keep things there in a presidential election. Voter ID laws serve well to control rampant voter fraud. We should legalize recreational use of marijuana. Only people who break the law need to worry about mass surveillance. Privatized prison systems are the most effective tool to rehabilitate prisoners. You can see there's a bias to some of these questions that I objected to. So we ended up like, well, where we couldn't not show bias, we would make other questions that show the opposite bias to keep people from thinking that this is some agenda, because really our agenda is knowing what you think and enumerating that somehow.
Yeah, if you know what you think, it doesn't matter how the question is raised. If I'm against private prisons, you can ask me that 500 different ways, and my answer will always be the same. No. Right. If that means I have to strongly agree or strongly disagree on however you phrase it, then as long as the final answer means I don't like it, then I'm okay with it.
Immigrants should only be allowed to enter the country if they share our values. Abortion should be made illegal. The U.S. military and its allies are responsible for increased terrorism activity. Negotiations are better than peace. Negotiations are a better path to peace than warfighting efforts. Humanity has a responsibility to reduce pollution and leave the Earth to the next generation in a better state than we received it. If a substance, and I wrote this one, if a substance is unhealthy to breathe, then machinery shouldn't be allowed to release it into the atmosphere. I'm big on clean energy. I drive an electric car. I have solar panels.
Oh, so do I. What kind of electric car do you have?
I have a Tesla.
Oh, nice. I just bought a Kia Soul EV. I love it.
Cool. As citizens of the U.S., we have the right to access clean water. I don't know who would disagree with that, but it's asked.
Monsanto would disagree with that.
Yeah. It's necessary for our government to regulate industry. Corporations should favor profits over the communities in which they operate. The United States of America should not have to follow intermediaries. I'm almost done here. Privatized education such as charter.
Corey, hold on a sec. That last one, we had a tech problem, so can you say that one again? Okay.
The United States of America should not have to follow international law from the UN. There are some people who have different opinions on that. That surprised me. But anyway, moving on. Privatized education, such as charter schools or private universities, should receive taxpayer funding. We need stricter emission standards to cut down on pollution. Religion has no place in government. And finally, transgender individuals deserve the right to use the restroom for which the gender they identify with.
I see. So then you answer all those questions based on strongly agree, agrees, whatever.
Right.
And then you guys create, so then kind of
a match, a percent agree. So it's 25 questions, and you can have up to a 4 delta of difference. So if you strongly agree and someone else strongly disagree, that's, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree, that's 4 away. So if you answer the exact same as everybody, as somebody else, except you completely disagree on one thing, then you are 96% agree. So over the course of the questions, you can get a real sense of just how far you are from someone, and you'd be surprised because I would go talk to someone who's a true blue no matter who Democrat, and then someone who's a mad dog Republican. And they would answer the questions 80% similar, and all the questions they answered similar are the humanizing questions. And then these are the things in which Congress dehumanizes us with. So that's the point, is to get people who care about humanity into office.
Okay, so then when I look at your website, when I go to ourvoiceusa.org and I click on the candidate directory, I see, it looks like, I don't know, a bunch of different candidates, maybe.
Yeah, so that's a work in progress. I'm working to integrate it with the app. So rather than seeing a list of candidates, you enter your address and then you see incumbents and then the challengers linked. Because when you're looking at it right now, you're going to find a bunch of people you're not going to care about because you're not in that district. So I'm all about optimizing it so that when you enter an address or even just a city name, it's relevant to you personally.
So then, but all of these people you have on this list, are they all running against incumbents?
Yes, as far as I know.
So that's a big thing you guys are pushing for is going against incumbents, entrenched, either Republicans or Democrats, because that's part of the problem.
Correct. I am a big believer, and this is one of the few political beliefs I'm going to shout out from the rooftops, is we need term limits. And where we don't have term limits, the way you get a term limit is you primary them. It's like, you've been in office for 30 years, bye.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the things I think term limits are decent. The thing I would, if I had to pick to put over term limits, would be opening up the primaries.
Oh, absolutely. But before you can open the primaries, you have to primary them, because people who hold power aren't going to do things to reduce their power. That's just human nature. So it's what's the path to get in there and make changes? You have to, in a red state, you're going to have to run as a Republican. You might be able to win as an independent with a really gung-ho grassroots campaign, but you're going to have more success running as a Republican. And I know a lot of people can't stomach that idea, and I get it. Tribal lines are powerful in the minds of those, the people they belong. But, my personal belief is if you create a system that makes engagement easier, people will be engaged. And when people are more engaged, the problem is going to get solved.
What else are you guys doing that so you're obviously trying to get a lot of people engaged. So the person that comes to you and says, I don't know much, civics wasn't really studied in my public school. I want to get involved, but I don't know what to do. What's the entry, or what is your sort of opening to this person to get them involved?
So most people don't even know who represents them. And just by informing them who represents them, and I showed this to someone just a couple of days ago, and she goes, well, what's a state legislature? And I'm like, okay, well, it's an educational moment for someone. And I can't have a low opinion of that person, because the system is designed for people to not be engaged. And when people are ignorant, you can't fault them for that in a lot of cases.
Well, it's easier to vote for American Idol than it is for your local representatives. Right. I mean, it's not a coincidence that our elections are on a work day. In other industrialized countries, they're on weekends. They're several days long. And it's like in this country where 63% of the population doesn't have $1,000 in savings, half the country is the working poor. They don't have time to take off work on a Tuesday and wait in line. Some states like California has vote by mail, and you can vote. That's a good thing, but not every state has that.
Right.
And it's pretty easy to paint people, yes, I wish more people would pay attention. Yes, I wish we would have higher voter turnout. But I also understand that the system is completely designed to keep you at home and only keep a handful of people to come out and vote.
Yeah. So back to your question of, how do you spark that engagement? So you just simply inform them as the first step. And if you can inform them in such a way that they realize that their representative doesn't think at all like they do, that will spark an emotional reaction that may get them more involved. And if they can see right there that there are people who they do agree with a lot more that are running against them, it's like, hey, okay, if they can press a button and it says, I pledge to vote for, this person who's running against this, incumbent in the primary, that sends a message. And it says in the app right now, not many people have used it yet, but it says average rating of this Republican incumbent is 1.5 out of this many Republicans in their district that said so. It's like,
so how do I do this? I'm on your site right now. How do I find out who my state legislatures are? I know who my senators are, and I know who my congressman is.
Right now, that function's only in the app.
Okay.
We will have it on the website too, not too long from now, because the way I designed it, there's the function that does it, and right now the mobile app knows how to talk to it, and I just need to get the website to talk to the same thing.
So how do I get the app? Do I just go to the Apple Store, or do I send it to you?
So right now we're in beta. I can send you a link and download it. Just if you have an Android, you can just download it with the link. But if you're iPhone, you have to fill out a form, and then you get sent the link.
I'm doing that right now. So I am going, everybody who's watching the show, I'm going to ourvoices.org. I have an iPhone, so I'm filling out the Apple OS beta, and I'm submitting that, and then I will get a beta of this app. And then in there, I type in my address. When I get the app, then I type in my address, and you'll tell me these are all my state and federal legislators, right?
Assuming we have the data, we're still in beta, and we have some gaps, and I'm working on it, which is why we're still in beta. But presumably, yes, in most places in the country, it will show correct Congress, Senate, and then state legislature.
And where are you guys getting your funding from?
We have no funding at the moment. I am doing this entirely in my own free time.
Do you take donations?
Yeah, we have a donate link on our website. So to answer your question, we take individual donations. We haven't gotten much yet, but we haven't really had much to show yet until just barely recently when I got this functionality out, and hopefully in the next month it will be fully available in the App Store.
All right, so I'm going to say this to everybody watching the show. A lot of you guys that watch the Political Vigilante, many of you are like, how do I get involved and what do I do? And I talk a lot about on this show, and we talk about it on the Super Chat of getting involved on a local level. This to me sounds like something that it's very much in its infancy, but it is something that you can get involved with wherever you live in the U.S. And it's a way to participate and get more informed. I think for me, too, I got more informed. I found out, what congressional district I was in, and Ted Lieu is my congressman, and Dianne Feinstein and Kamala Harris are my senators. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't know who my state representatives are. So I want to find that out.
So you should have an email it's called Test Flight. Since you're on iPhone, and it will have instructions on you download the Test Flight app and enter a code that's in the email, and then it installs. Apple likes to make things complicated, unfortunately. So until we're at a beta, that's unfortunately the process. But for Android, it's just, you can just find the link to the app on the Google Play just right from our website and download it without any of this nonsense.
Well, Corey, I got to tell you, I think this is a really great piece of technology, and I love the nonpartisan aspect of it. One of the other organizations that I support is openprimaries.org. They're a very specific thing, but I think what you're doing is really, the nonpartisanship of it is amazing to me, and the answering those 25 questions, I think, is a pretty. It's funny to me how you said these people that call themselves diehard Republicans and diehard Democrats had like an 80% overlap, which doesn't surprise me at all. Which is what why the two-party system is so flawed, is because it is designed to keep us fighting red state, blue state, whatever. Black, white, male, female, liberal, conservative, when 80% of us all want basically the same stuff, which is fair treatment. We want health care. We want good jobs. We want, less Americans going overseas and either dying or coming back from all these corporate wars. There's 22 veterans die a day because of all these corporate wars that they've been sent to fight. And I applaud everything you guys are doing, and I really enjoyed the conversation I had with Sam about why he explained to me why he's running as a Republican and his tactic. And I've experienced some of this myself. I was in South Dakota last October, October 16, working on an open primaries ballot initiative in South Dakota, and they brought up such good points there.
Yeah, one more thing that I want to add in, and I don't know when I'm going to get this in yet because it's not the priority, but petitions. If you can, when you canvass, say, here, put your signature on my smartphone for this petition. I think that's a very powerful thing that we can do as part of this whole movement, so that ballot initiatives, you can just use an app to do it rather than, okay, where do I find the form and print it out and have to deal with the paper and all this stuff. You just download an app and you start knocking on doors and they sign the petition, and then it's, tracked and automated and verified all that way.
All right, Corey. Well, I really, ourvoiceusa.org is the website, everybody. You can donate to it. Sounds like Corey could use your help. You can start to, this is the kind of grassroots political activism and participation that we all need. And it's something looks like you're looking for volunteers on the website. So I would check out the website. I would get the app. And Corey, any last thoughts or things you want to leave with the viewers about what you guys are doing or future plans?
I like to look at everything through the lens of technology because I'm a technologist, and when it comes down to it, there's not a problem in the world. You can't solve the technology. It's people who get in the way. And I think that if you can set your own personal beliefs aside for a moment and be part of something greater than yourself, recognize that maybe I don't agree 100% with something, but it's ultimately good for everybody. Then my belief is, join something. It doesn't have to be our voice, but if you can set aside, some of your personal ideology, then you can actually work together with people to do great things.
That's a good point, and it's what, a lot of people watch the show are big Bernie supporters, and when, Bernie went into West Virginia and was talking to coal miners, and he was actually relating to them in this red state, and to listen to these coal miners go, wow, this guy, this crazy hippie from Vermont is talking to me more than any of the other big-name politicians. It's really what you're talking about. So, Corey, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. You guys, once again, it's ourvoiceusa.org. Please check it out. Download the app. I'm getting it because I want to be more informed. And thank you so much for watching the show. Like and subscribe and all those great things to keep the political vigilante going. And this is how we will get the corporations or circumvent them or get them out of media and politics is by stuff like this. So thank you, everybody, so much for watching.